All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Soon to be up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan.
And Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, you made it last night. I was proud of you.
I
had
love
some
it.
energy going.
Duthie was laughing with Puff on the side of the panel. He just started laughing at the picture, and he didn't even know what it meant. He didn't even know it was Pete Rose. He's like, look at this picture from Hayes. He goes, what is that? And I go, you don't know who that is? I'm like, that's Pete Rose late at night. He's like falling asleep. He goes, oh, I found it funny even without knowing that.
I found it online before the game started.
I saw it.
And it was such a perfect Pete Rose picture because he's in the screen. Like, the backstory of it is he was in the shot. It was supposed to be a solo shot with that host, and Pete Rose is, like, peeking his head in. So, the directors live are like, get Pete out. Like, tell him to snap out of it and move Pete Rose.
Yeah.
And
I
bow
just,
tie on.
oh, the bow tie with the kind of Lloyd Christmas cut. It was a weird vibe, man.
Very
He
weird
did.
vibe.
The Lloyd Christmas hair. And you had a comment. I burst out laughing. I think it was after the second period. Duthie goes, you got to wake up, Owen. You go, why? This team's asleep too. He said something like that. You're like, they're wasting my time or something.
No, I just said, they don't care on the ice. I don't care on doing this job. Like,
look at Pete Rose there.
Duthie and I watching the Knies and White Cloud fight. Oh, what a scene that was last night. And, yeah, it's too bad because it was 3-0 before you could even flinch.
Yeah.
And, they get to the end of the first, and there's a lot to get into from the game last night. And I don't know how many people would have stuck around, and we're less than 24 hours away from the deadline. There's a lot going on, so we got a lot to get into today. But you get to the first intermission, 3-0. Okay, they actually had a bunch of shots and opportunities at different times, and I thought Adin Hill played very well in the first. And the first shift of the second period – because that's the thought, right? You're like, it's 11 o'clock. I'm tired. They're probably going to lose. I'll stick it out. Maybe they get hot early in the second. And there's Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Morgan Rielly, dog park defense, waving their sticks around in the corner. Mitch Marner loses his guy. It's 4-0, and the lights are out. Like, it was 40 seconds into the second period. You decide to stay up and watch, and you're like, oh, that was worth it. These guys aren't coming back.
I saw this. I smelt this. I smelt this one from a mile away because we praised them in the past, or I did anyway, for finding ways to get wins. And that's what it's all about. You just got to, whatever way it happens, it doesn't matter if it's ugly, bad goaltending, power play wasn't good, but you find a way to get a win. But when you're playing against teams where you get away with bluffing it, and I often mention tough golf courses where it like exposes weaknesses. You get to some goat pasture and you can just spray tee balls everywhere. You can bluff it. You can hit it all over the yard and be like, I got a shot at birdie here, man, and I've been all over. You can't do that against good teams or on good golf courses. You can't bluff it. So a lot of times when you're trying to get back into the win column, you'll have that one game where you play really well, but you don't get the job done, and then the next game you'll win. Well, these guys were winning games with really not really playing well, and then they had that loss. And then you get out to Vegas, and that team will stop you right in your tracks, and they'll just say, you guys want to try to bluff this one? We will absolutely slap you in the face. And that's what they did. They're a real-deal hockey team, and they play for keeps, and they're big, and they're fast, and they're strong, and their goaltender showed up. And if you go out there and try to wing it against those guys, you get smacked around, and that's what happened. I smelt it a mile away.
I didn't. I said on the show, I said on the show yesterday, not that I didn't smell it a mile away. I mean, we thought the time change could be a factor, all of that. I think, you were getting your rest, and Hayes and I carried on. But I said, you needed a nap.
Am I a senior citizen?
Warm milk and then shut the mill down.
You had panel duties to do. Hayes and I carried on.
Okay.
So my point being,
you take a bath. What was your plan?
Candle bath. No, you needed a pregame nap. But the point being is I actually said, regardless, they're a team that usually plays up or down to their opponent sometimes. Like that just, we had witnessed it a couple nights earlier, and I thought, okay, well, they're going to have a response. Now, Vegas is allowed to play well too. obviously you need a save or two from Woll, so that factors in. But they did have some chances. I thought Hill made some good saves. But I text you in the second period. That fell apart in the second period. If Stolarz doesn't come in and play well,
10-0.
That's 10-0. That was
sure.
ugly in the second when it was breakaway after chance after chance. And I was like, this guy's making this – like that wasn't a 5-2 game for me. That was 9-2.
And this is the complicated kind of factor here when trying to determine exactly what we saw because – you said it, and in retrospect, you can sniff that out. You look at it, and you're like, you know what? They have played a lot of games on the road. Yeah. They've been all over the place. They've been sloppy at times, but finding a way to win. You play Monday at home, and then 10:22 p.m. Eastern time puck drop in Vegas, and Vegas had been waiting there since Sunday. Just chomping at the bit. That's a really tough game for anybody. But they're a veteran team. And, they had certain things to say after the game. We'll get to that momentarily. But it also felt like if that was going to be the case and you're going to give up a 5 spot and it could have been a 10 spot, why not leave Joseph Woll in there? Why not leave him in there? Why not just tell the third and fourth line, you're playing 20 minutes tonight. Like, what are you accomplishing? Putting Stolarz in and making him go from Monday night to last night and go in the game and get tested.
I can't disagree with that one. It's
what's the point? But to counter my own point, if you're Berube and you're a real team, you're like, well, we're not just going to mail in a game.
Yes.
15 minutes in. That's a loser's mentality. So in retrospect, you look at it, and I wish he just threw up the white flag and said, well, you're in there for 7 or 8 tonight. Matthews, Marner, Jake McCabe. I thought Morgan Rielly and Ekman-Larsson were awful last night again.
Tell you what about the value? You don't notice it sometimes until they're gone. Chris Tanev, MVP of the team for crying out loud. Well, watching that decor without him, and you mentioned that pairing of Mo and Ekman-Larsson.
I'll tell you what.
Talking about they got to find I keep seeing these tweets about people assessing the Leafs and what they need or whatever. Got to find a partner for Morgan Rielly. Mo's got to start playing better where he is an ideal partner for somebody else.
For me, It is the top priority. Like that has become very clear since the break. Rielly's supplied some more offense, which is necessary, and at times he's been skating better. But that Rielly Ekman-Larsson pairing was horrendous against Pittsburgh. I thought they were awful last night in the first, like awful. And to throw them over the boards to start the second period. If you're Craig Berube, you're like, you got Stolarz in, the Matthews line, and our 2 veteran defensemen. Go out there and have a shift. And they're both in the corner swinging their stick around like a pair of American Hockey League players. And I'm sorry, I don't care who's playing third line center if those 2 are playing like that. You can't win like that. You can't. It's completely irrelevant if it's Braden Shen, Scott Lawton, Max Domi, Freddie the Goat. I don't care who it is playing third-line center.
The best
these
part
2
is
veteran
it's the same corner
are playing like this. You can't win like that. You can't. Like Morgan Rielly has been here forever. He's never been Scott Stevens defensively. He never will be. He has to be miles better. Sure. Miles better. Or they have no shot. No shot with the way that they're defending right now.
I agree. And I can understand your logic on both sides with the goaltending change. But when you're Craig Berube, you make the goaltending change, and you were generating chances. So you're thinking, okay, if we can stop the bleeding at 3, we have enough talent to get 3. We have enough talent to put us back into this game with creating some chances. Because Hill made some really good saves. Mm-hmm. But then it didn't happen. Like you said, that pairing, I didn't think anybody, you circle – I don't.
But it's not just last night, Noodles.
No,
that's
right.
the thing. Like McCabe struggled, but he's had a pretty consistently good year, and I think he'll pair with Tanev, and he's out there playing with younger guys, and they're trying to find a way. Rielly and Ekman-Larsson, they're defensively have fallen off here, and that's where you got 20 games to figure it out and figure out who they're going to play with, and I honestly think for me it's a higher priority than all this other stuff we keep talking about. And, because if you've got Tanev and McCabe, that's been a good pairing, and they're going to play a lot. And they're going to play against the best players, and I think you're comfortable with that. You need the rest of your defense to be able to be predictable at times defensively. They're not going to be perfect. And I would anticipate that they'll be better come playoff time. It's it's a weird time of the year. It's kind of a dog day. You got the trade deadline. There's some weird stuff going on. But, I guess this is the way I would phrase it to you guys. You guys tell me, what's more important, third line center or your second defense pairing for playoff success?
Second defense pairing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like all day. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So they got to figure that out. Like who's going to play it? If it's the guys that are here, they got to play better.
Yeah, I think it's like a chain of command. Like there's no sense of even worrying about the third line center if you can't put out a second D pair coring.
Exactly.
Well, that you trust. And Brian, you come back to it. Like this is the thing, and I always try and remove the emotion part. Is you assess a team not when they're down because everything's a mess. They had an off night.
Yep.
But like. You just said it. Morgan Rielly needs to play better. Oliver Ekman-Larsson needs to play better. Can they? Are they capable of doing it? Yes.
Yes.
So if you believe, let's look at them. They don't have to be at 100%, but they can't be at 30. If you can get them to 75, 80%, what does that look like? And are you comfortable moving forward with, we'll call it that 4-pack? Because when Tanev was there and Rielly and Ekman-Larsson were, they looked like a nice 4-pack. There was they looked very solid. Everybody looked comfortable in their own skin. It looks different with Tanev not there, 100%. But that doesn't mean everybody else has to fall off. Like you need those guys to play better. And there's other guys you can circle and go, I haven't seen this guy in a while,
Yep.
and they've got to live up to what they're capable of too.
And you look at Joseph Woll. Berube said he'd like the first 2 goals back. The second one for sure. You can't have a backhand go through your body like that.
Yeah.
The second one cannot go in. But Eichel, he's deep in his crease, but that's a bullet top shelf. That's a great shot. Eichel.
Remind me of the first one. Why
the
would
first
that
one was the breakdown where Domi almost got bad.
I know, but how is that on the goalie on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that.
McCabe had he was looking up at the dancers behind the net or something, and the puck.
The puck went really high, and then it was.
But look at the position he takes at the top of the dots there. That was bizarro world. It was like, watch what he does here. Okay. Now he identifies the puck, and then he's like, I'm gonna just check off this high guy here. And the guy walks right to the net. It was bizarro world.
But I don't understand how – and if you look – I think it was Holmberg and Domi both stopped skating, and then Domi realized, man, that guy could get that.
Absolutely.
I don't know how that was on the goalie, though.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure, unless his interpretation was it was a bigger rebound than he thought it should have been. I'm not sure either. I didn't see that first one as a Wall issue. The second one he's got to stop. I mean,
and we're not going to go like scorched earth on this. They're not all of a sudden a terrible hockey team after this. But it's amazing how things do change from – giggles and wins until a loss against San Jose, then getting crushed by Vegas, and then it's like you got to have Nathan McKinnon skating around on a Saturday night a zillion miles an hour. You might want to pull your socks up a little bit because then you're like, well, what the hell happens in Utah if we lose that one? And then we got a bit of a problem on
right.
And,
they need a response. They do.
Yeah,
they'll need a response, and it'll say a lot about them Saturday. And I would expect,
and they usually do. That's
better.
The type of game where they usually respond. As soon as you think, oh, it's these guys again that always pull this kind of nonsense, they generally answer the bell and they'll stand up and they'll have a performance.
Yes, and it doesn't guarantee you'll win. Because you might just run into an opponent that plays equally as well, or the goalie, or whatever. But they'll be much better. They won't have the breakdowns. I'd be very surprised if they broke down the way they did last night, or at times against Pittsburgh in particular. But here's what we got: a montage of a few players, the leaders speaking after the game last night. On, media was kind of poking and prodding on the schedule, which again is kind of complicated to get a read on because a lot of these guys just had 2 weeks in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So you're just off for 2 weeks. But Matthews and Marner, Willie, you can see they're fighting it, and they didn't get a break. And here's what a few of the leaders had to say after the game about what happened last night and how tough the schedule has been.
I don't know. I mean, it's a tough excuse to use. So last couple games really haven't been great by us. I thought our goalies have kept us in it a lot of times. So it's a wake up call.
I don't know. I mean, it's no excuse. The schedule's the schedule, and I mean, we just gotta find a way to compete and bear down. You were dealt the cards that you get, so it's on us to be better.
So, yeah, there's Marner and Matthews. That's the appropriate answer. I mean, that's the way you should answer it. You're vets in the league. You're a veteran team.
Yeah.
Everyone's
as
got
Duthie mentioned last night, it's time to – there's no more Four Nations. Like, that's expired as far as being built into anything, right?
Right.
Like, it's gone.
Yeah, and you're into the stretch run here, and the trade deadline's tomorrow, and, Florida just feels like they've got their finger on the pulse of everything. Like, they're just going to make moves. I would not be surprised if they made 2 or 3, like, somewhat substantial deals between now and tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Did I not read that they were sniffing around Rantanen?
I have seen that. So the Mikko Rantanen stuff, it feels kind of like deja vu. That every day we come in here, we're like, could he be traded? And a week ago, I was like, this is kind of goofy. There's no way.
No, I sent Joe from the Bridge and young Doogie a note. I said, please stop being stupid on this text chain, because Doogie wrote, Kane still might flip him. And I said, sorry, Doogie, that's amateur hour talk, and I don't know who is telling you that. And him and Joe from the Bridge love texting again. You guys thought I was joking when I text that.
Doogie's dialed in, man. Don't you deny that.
Yeah, he's dialed in all right.
He's dialed in. And now
even Natchez came out in Colorado and he goes, wouldn't you think you knew you'd sign him before acquiring the player? Like, are these guys dodos?
Well, I guess that's the kind of updated reporting today, is that it sounds like Rantanen has
told him I'm not signing here.
I'm not interested in sticking around. Yeah. So that one stings, if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. And what I'm curious about, and we'll ask Pierre LeBrun about this, is and all is fair in love and war, right? Like, this is a business and it's a battle. But I am very curious. I'd love to be a fly on the wall if Carolina feels like they got duped here a little bit by Colorado saying, hey, we got to keep this quiet. I don't want him to know. We're not saying anything. Don't ask him, because if he hears that we want to flip him, we're in trouble. And the Canes were like, oh, man, I guess so. I'll take your word for it, and
he's going to be so happy here, by the way, when he gets here. He'll love it. And
exactly.
Like,
I'm wondering
I don't know why you guys did this.
Colorado kind of pulled a fast one, being like, listen, we're not talking to him, but I know he loves Carolina. Like, I'm convinced he'll be fine there. And if they have a legitimate beef, not one that you can file to the league, that's the way the game is played.
Well, what do you expect them to get if they ultimately flip this guy? What do you expect them to get in return, comparative to what they gave up for Natchez? Like, they got Natchez and Drury.
So you're right, but it depends on if you trade. So if he controls some of this, because I think he's got a 10 team. If he decides where he's going to go, they go to him and say, you're going to go to Team X. Let's just get crazy and go name a team. And then it's a sign and trade. Then you're going to get more if he commits to the new team. If the new team is using him as a rental, you're getting feathers. That's really what you're getting. You're getting a smaller amount. But if you're getting Mikko Rantanen on an 8-year deal and you're trading for him, it's a king's ransom because that's a star player.
Would you do it if you're the Leafs? If Mikko Rantanen calls Brad Treliving and says, I'll sign 8 years, $13 million right now.
Okay, so who's out the door? Who's out the door?
That's probably Matthew Knies.
Matthew Knies would be going out the door. Like, I think that would be the starting point for Carolina. Now,
who's going on LTIR to get? Oh, what is he at? What's his salary?
Well, he's at like $2.5 million or something.
Okay, so you could actually
nothing.
get him. That's right. Yeah,
and they probably eat half of it. He'd be making 1.5 or something the rest of this year.
I got to be honest with you, Hayes. I got to be honest with you. As good a player as Mikko Rantanen is, I would look at Matthew Knies. I'm just kind of like, I look at the way these guys are earning money, and they're all like great players, and they all deserve the money. But if anybody's wondering why there's not like a lot of flexibility where you can go out and get quality players at the deadline, it's because one guy makes $13 million, three other guys make $11.5. When you have that kind of structure on your team, like, I'm kind of done with that. They've already let's say the 2 guys that are up, they don't re-sign. There's 2 guys that make big money. Haven't they kind of proven to themselves there's not much flexibility if you have another guy plus another guy making that kind of money?
Well,
you see what the depth players are doing for the team. Like, why not just have a different look and a different philosophy moving forward instead of this $13 million nonsense? Well, unless Rantanen, you look at Rantanen compared to Matthew Knies. Matthew Knies has got 25 goals.
Well, what's he going to ask for? He's an RFA at the end of the year.
I don't know. I bet you it'll be a bridge deal, though. But if he's smart, he'd kind of attach himself at the hip to Auston Matthews. Give me a 3-year. How long's Matthews here? I want to play with him for 3 more years. I don't know.
I don't know. What, he's got 3 more?
But what's the goal differential? I understand.
Well, he's got 24 goals. Listen, Rantanen's better. We all know that. No one needs to express that. But he is. I mean, obviously, Rantanen's better than Matthew Knies.
That's not even a hot take. That's
exactly. It's just, but it needs to be clarified because you do see. Well, still, what if Knies turns into that? He's not going to do that. Like Mikko Rantanen is a superstar, but Knies has 24 goals. I loved that fight last night. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that finally someone on this team, and a couple other guys would do it, but I think the list is short, who said, that's a Struddy. Like, remember Strud when we talked about it, Reeves hitting, who was it, Nurse? And Struddy's like, if someone hit me like that, I'm fighting them, like 100%, and the guy's going to know I'm coming. And I love that Knies told White Cloud, we're going, and he beat the piss out of that kid last night. Like, he threw left after left at him. And I love that. He's got 24 goals, and he's a big body, and he's cheaper. There's a lot of value in that. Like a lot of value in that. I'm not disputing it.
But my point is, wouldn't you think you'd be a better team and have a better chance of win if you had more of that, as opposed to just putting all your stock and it's like, oh, you better be such a superstar that you carry the mail. We saw what these guys do when it's up to them to carry the mail. All of the mail come playoff time. They don't do it. Well, and if you don't have depth underneath that, you are screwed.
It just depends on where he fits in the structure. You're right, the salary structure. Technically on paper, before anything happens, Tavares's and Marner's deal comes off the books. Technically on paper. That's, we know that. There's no secret. Both of them are unrestricted next year. So you have an opportunity to reshape your roster if you want to. Now, those guys go to unrestricted free agency. Mitch Marner, you're going to be looking to replace that. You're going to have to replace it.
Let's clear that up. Like if you're doing a sign and trade for Rantanen at that price, you're basically, I think, would be telling Mitch Marner, certainly John Tavares,
yes,
your future isn't
here
anymore.
No, it's both of them.
Probably both. You're probably I'm going Rantanen on the left side, Matthews up the middle, Willie on the right side. That's the money that we're going to allot to these players. Rantanen and Marner are the same age, same draft, and that would be. Then what you're asking yourself is, how does Marner and Tavares react to that move tomorrow if it were to happen with a sign and trade, knowing this is it for you guys? That's another thing.
Then go and earn a contract somewhere else. Like, that's down the stretch on a team that you got an opportunity. Like, that's the way I would look at it, is not everybody gets what they – like, John Tavares is in a different boat than Mitch Marner. Just age, all
obviously,
of that.
Yeah, and not going to get the same amount of money.
Right. But Mitch Marner, I'm pretty sure – he probably could have a deal in his back pocket if he wanted. This is what he chose. He chose this. I believe him and his camp chose this. They have the right to negotiate. They have a right to go to free agency. Takes two to tango. I don't know where the Leafs are at, but I would argue that they probably had a conversation last summer and said, let this play out. So Mitch Marner, if they traded for Rantanen, you can't be pissed. You're going, we don't know if you're going to walk away from us. They could go deep into the playoffs and he decides, I want to go play in L.A. next year.
Yeah. Guys, one more thing on Rantanen as opposed to Knies. Hayes, you touched on it last week with your outrageous comments regarding how many more Hart trophies Connor McDavid is going to win. How old is Mikko Rantanen?
He's 27, I believe.
Okay, so you're going to be giving him an 8-year deal. Are you going to get the best version of Mikko Rantanen after, let's say, next year, where he's 28 years?
That's valid. He's 28 right now. He turned 28.
So you have to wonder, you have to ask yourself, you might get 2 or 3 really quality Mikko Rantanen type years after them, and then there's 5 tacked onto that where you're going to be looking at him and you're like, man, there's a lot of miles on that guy. Maybe he's just not the same. It's a big risk. Big risk.
But it's the same risk you're taking with Marner. They're the same age.
Jamie,
right?
I'm well aware of it. I was just more referring to the comparison of like a Knies guy who's going to be a 30-goal scorer, hasn't even got to his prime. Obviously, Rantanen's the better player right now, but you have to look at that. When you want to start tossing around 8-year deals, Like you might have a 5-pack tacked onto that. Big body might start slowing down. And making those type of transactions. What's that?
I said he could eat himself out of the league. Who knows?
Well, yeah, there's always risk involved. It's just
he's got 101 points in 81 playoff games.
Yeah, keep in mind, guys. Like that's the one thing. The cap is going up, so you can spend money on players. It's not a decision. Oh, it's Knies or Rantanen. You can keep them. It's more a decision if it was Rantanen or Marner or Rantanen or Tavares. Matthew Knies is not you maybe. The cost of doing business is to get a player like that. But the point being, like, I don't think it's a choice, one or the other. You can keep them both under a cap that's going up. It's just who do you want to commit to long term?
Well, and that's ultimately going to be the question. And they also need to know who's willing to commit to them. And that's the game of chicken. That's the business, when it comes to where the Leafs are at right now. Ryan Reeves placed on waivers today. So you would presume that's the end of the Ryan Reeves era. I don't think anyone's going to claim him. He's got a year and a half left on his deal. He'll go to the Marlies. I don't know what they're going to do with him down there. Maybe they call him back up down the stretch, playoffs, who knows. But Ryan Reeves on waivers, that was kind of what we were talking about yesterday. Bodies are going to have to go out here to create some flexibility. It's not a lot of money, though. I mean, you're putting them on waivers. You're going to save $1.15 million or whatever it is. Mark Masters was in Vegas. Get his take on the mood in the room afterwards and what he expects between now and tomorrow. Pierre LeBrun coming up with all the details on Mikko Rantanen and Brad Marchand. Is he available? If so, what else could happen in Boston? It sounds like Boston might be willing to make some moves here.
Sure.
And, where do the Leafs stand between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow among many other teams, including the Canadian teams? And I have my Hazy B list, the seven Canadian GMs with pressure to get active between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow. And it was as difficult of a practice as I can come up with.
I want you to do a little underlying story for each one and finish it with this. You better do this.
Okay. I can try to do that, or you can help out, too, on the fly. You guys can a little chime.
I'll chime in there.
Okay. Yeah. That more still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel. Now we're up on TSN 4. We got Pierre LeBrun coming up in about a half an hour. There is action taking place around the NHL. Trades are happening. Riley Smith on his way back to Vegas. Right?
No, explain this one to me, Hazy. Please just give a quick little note on what went down. Why are Pittsburgh and Nashville making trades with one another?
I love that move last night.
No, you don't, dude.
I love the move.
No, you don't.
Two of the most disappointing teams in the league that are going nowhere are making hockey trades.
Do you think they tried to sell it as a blockbuster where they're both going in the right direction now?
I think don't you think they're grabbing player to flip them? Maybe this is a potential
But why don't they flip them? Why doesn't Nashville just trade Luke Shen?
Hang on a sec. I'd like to flip Shen and then.
Well, that's one.
So I can
that's why I said this to you guys in the group text.
I want to flip him too, though, but I'll let you flip him. All right.
But I didn't. I said that to you guys in the group text. Why is Pittsburgh trying to get older and slower?
I don't know. I don't. And why does Nashville want Michael Bunting? What is Michael Bunting going to do for them?
Well, he's got a couple years left on his deal, I believe, right?
Dude, I think that trade conversation might have been an SNL skit, to be honest with you. If we actually if we got access to that, I might start laughing.
Confusion, they thought they were duping the other guy, and then they realized, there was just mass confusion.
Yeah. Hey, how are you, Barry Trotz, Michael Bunting? Hey, I thought we got Raquel.
Yeah, what are you doing here? You're not a first-round pick. All right, here's Mark Masters, our Maple Leaf reporter. Are you surviving down there in Vegas, Mark? What's life like down there?
Yeah, we were on an 8 a.m. flight to Denver. The team flew out after the game last night, so we're just trying to stay as close to them as possible, even though it's a day off for the team. You just never know what's going to happen. So we were out early. Obviously, would have liked to have spent a little more time in Vegas. Got in late on Tuesday night. Then it was all game day on Wednesday. And now we're here in the thin air of Denver getting set for the deadline.
So nothing went down in Vegas, Mark? You didn't enjoy the nightlife, any of that type of behavior?
None at all. It was all business. It was a business trip to Vegas. Obviously a big broadcast for us last night. Listen, this is a grind, guys. I am exhausted. I don't know how the players are dealing with it. I know they downplayed the schedule last night, and you don't want to make excuses, but and we're not traveling the same way that they do. But still, this has been a crazy schedule for the team, and you're just trying to save all the energy. We got a big show tomorrow.
Yes, we absolutely do.
Holy smokes. Get out and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, do you ever see, the traveling sales guy, the big, tall, lanky traveling salesman that just bellies up at the hotel bar and murders beers? That guy knows how to just allot his time and commitment to different things. Mark, I give you credit, though, man. You're ready for a big day tomorrow, and I appreciate the professionalism.
Yeah, we're going to be on the air, 6:30 a.m. Is my first hit here in the Mountain Time Zone. So you got to just save the energy on a week like this. There's a time and place, right? So
okay.
I'll save it. I'll save it for another time, another trip.
I like it. In terms of them downplaying, the players downplaying the schedule, and you're right. I mean, what's a little bit conflicting is that the majority of the team just had 2 weeks on a beach in the Bahamas, so they just had the biggest break probably they've ever had in their career mid-season. Yet it came out of the Four Nations with 3 games in 3 different cities over 4 nights, and then on the road, then back home, then back on the road. Last night was a really tough game. Really tough considering they played Monday at home and then 10:22 p.m. Eastern time puck drop in Vegas, the Golden Knights waiting for them. But is the next 3 days enough to make you believe that as of Saturday they're coming alive again? How do you where do you draw the line on, yes, that one was tough, but does that mean the next one's going to be tough and they got to go through California still? They don't have an easy traveling schedule the rest of the year.
Yeah, they got Nashville still. They got a lot of Western travel this month. Auston Matthews kind of quipped that they're fitting all of their Western Conference trips into basically the last 2 months of the season. Certainly feels that way. They called it a wake-up call. Both Mitch Marner and Auston Matthews used that word. I wonder if Berube maybe behind the scenes had brought it up because sometimes they echo it. That they don't, and Marner said, we didn't play great. We didn't like our game on Monday night at home against the San Jose Sharks, even though they had a lead in the third period. But that's the last-place team in the league coming into your building on an 8-game losing streak, and you'll let it slip away there. So there's been cracks here. They've been piling up the wins, but I don't think they've been all that impressive. Their goaltender, Anthony Stolarz in particular, has been really glossing over some of the issues and helping them stay in that game in Boston, win that game in New York. And obviously in Pittsburgh on the Sunday, it was their goalie, Joseph Woll, did not play particularly well, but the other guy wasn't very good either. In fact, it was a little worse in Blomqvist at the other end. And I actually thought last night the Leafs came out okay. They ended up out shooting Vegas 16-8, and I'm always curious to hear what the other team's coach said. And Bruce Cassidy basically said, we got the saves in the first, they didn't, and that was basically the game. And in that schedule situation, when you fall behind 3-0 and the goalie lets in that, Howden backhander, you're just it's a big mountain to climb. So I do wonder what we're going to see. I think they tend to play well in Denver. They tend to, recognize the challenge of Nathan McKinnon and the Avalanche. So I'm expecting a response, especially with the 2-day break, to kind of get used to this. So yeah, I'm expecting a response on Saturday night.
With Mark Masters, what was it like to see the Matthew Knies White Cloud fight last night, right off the draw to start the game?
Yeah, that kind of, we had identified that on the broadcast. We're like, okay, let's have that video ready. We know what happened earlier in the season. And Knies, he wasn't upset with White Cloud when he spoke to us the first time after that. He said, listen, I got to learn. I got to keep my head up. That's on me. But he was upset about it, right? He got injured. He missed time because of that hit. It did not sit well with him. And I guess he had told, Mitch Marner said he got a head up from Knies before the game that he was going to look for that. And good on him. Morgan Rielly said that's a young player making a statement. If you nail me, you're going to answer for it. Clean or not, I'm going to come calling. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", 220. And it's, by the looks of it, he knows how to fight. I remember back in October, he pulled Ryan Reeves aside after practice and said, give me some tips because I know I might be in that situation. He said he was struck by Reeves being so calm and always having a plan. And it sure looked like Knies had a plan going into that fight, caught White Cloud off guard with a couple of those left jabs. So good on him. The rest of the league is going to see that. And he, as in Rielly's, words, sent a message.
Where do you think Woll's head's at, Masters? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a couple tough outings. And I think everyone's established that Stolarz is the guy in net, but I don't know. Do you think there was Berube asked? I don't know if I heard this. If there was the temptation to just leave him in and let him kind of chew on it and fix it himself.
He wasn't asked about that. So he was asked, like, why did you pull the goalie? It's the first time he's pulled a goalie this season for performance, and he said it was a wake-up call to the team. I followed up and just said, what were you seeing from Woll before? And he said he felt like if you asked Woll, he'd probably want the first 2 goals back. He gave him a pass on the Jack Eichel shot, which was a nice shot. But still, if that Howden shot's going in, you're going to want to save. At some point, you're going to need a save, especially with Adin Hill looking so good at the other end early in that game. So we haven't spoken to Woll in a while. He was requested after the game in Pittsburgh, not available. Now they won that game, so the team, they wanted to keep the spotlight on some of the good news stories that night. He was requested last night, but not available. They decided to make the guys who wore letters available to the media. They do that after bad losses. So we haven't heard from Woll. It's hard to get a read on exactly how he's feeling about this because he had the one win in Chicago coming out of the break, then the illness, and you wonder if that took a bit out of him. Then the afternoon start on Pittsburgh can be a bit of a weird thing. He was on the ice. I remember the last guy on the ice Saturday at practice was Joseph Woll, which I found odd just because usually the guy who's going to start the next day is off early. So I just wonder where his mind's at. Friday morning before the game in New York, Craig Berube said he wants someone to be the guy come playoff time, and Anthony Stolarz is looking really good right now. And you just wonder if that's preying on the mind of Woll at all, because it just feels like, this is the time when someone's going to separate, and Stolarz is doing it. And Woll's wondering if it's a repeat of what happened down the stretch last year where Ilya Samsonov played well, took the crease, and started game 1. So I'm curious. We'll probably hear from Woll tomorrow, and I'm really interested to hear what he has to say.
I think we have to be mindful. This I just wanted to point out, Stolarz has only played 20. The most he's ever played in a season is 28 games. He's in 23 this year so far. So, he is going to creep down. If you give him an opportunity down the stretch, he will be career high in games.
I know, but Noodles, you know what? If he's going to be the guy in the playoffs, he might as well get some practice at it.
I agree. But are you 100% he is going to be the guy? That's the thing. I think there's been pockets where Woll's played very well, too. And it's just Stolarz has been more consistent. But keep in mind,
you played the
6
position.
weeks
If
off.
the playoffs were starting tomorrow, who was
Stolarz,
which one of the...
Stolarz right now. There's no doubt about it for me. But I'm saying Stolarz hasn't had his market correction either. He's had an unbelievable season. There might be a dip of 5 games where he doesn't have his goods. We haven't seen anything from Anthony Stolarz where there's been a dip yet, right? He's played 23 games. He hasn't played 43 or 53 where there's been ups and downs throughout the season. That's the only thing that worries for me down the stretch for him is we just don't know. There's a great unknown. The guy hasn't played more than 28 games in a season.
Yeah. The schedule is so tight that you got to think they're going to rotate a lot of the way down the stretch. Maybe the last few games they give the guy that they've identified a bit of a run to get in a rhythm. But just with the way the schedule is with all the travel, you got to obviously Stolarz is going to start Saturday. Would you go with him against Utah? For sure he's playing that game Thursday at home against Florida. That's circled. It's his former team. He's your hotter goalie. But Monday will be interesting. Do they let Stolarz have a run now, or do you get Woll right back in against the Utah Hockey Club, who are in a playoff race as well? That won't be an easy game either.
Right.
With Mark Masters. So you said the team flew into Colorado, so they're there. The management team was there last night. I'm presuming they're all there, Tree Living, Shanahan, everyone. What did you make of Auston Matthews' commentary yesterday, about the trade deadline and upgrades and what other teams are doing? And what are you anticipating? What is your kind of spidey sense telling you could happen with the Leafs between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow?
Yeah, that felt notable, the comment by Auston Matthews, because a lot of guys were asked about the trade deadline yesterday, and most of them stuck to the usual kind of talking points of we're focused on playing hockey and doing our jobs and the details, and we're not worried. We'll let management handle that. But Auston Matthews, listen, he's not going to hesitate. He doesn't often, speak out. But when he does, he's comfortable in that spot. And as the captain of the team, he came out and said, look at the spot we're in. Look at the division we're in. We'd like to see, of course we'd want to see a boost. You see other teams adding, you want to add as well. So it did feel notable. And just, the guys probably, obviously we're seeing the news of the Tampa Bay trade. The Penguins were in the building getting, like, their equipment was in the building because they're going to practice there today and then play Vegas on Friday. So, like, we were seeing, like, Penguins bags leaving, like Vincent Desharnais' bags getting carried, like, right past the Leafs where they're, like, doing their, soccer warm-ups. And I'm sure the Leafs players were like, when are we going to see a new bag move in or whatnot? Or maybe some of the guys are thinking, will I be heading out? So it was a bit of an uneasy, kind of strange day yesterday in Vegas. And the Spidey sense is that they're going to do something, right? They got to do something, you would have to think. Trey Living downplayed it a bit when he met with us the other day, Saturday in Pittsburgh. But you got to believe something's happening. Ryan Reeves on waivers. You wonder if it's not going to be as big as I think a lot of Leafs fans would like it to be.
Well, we will find out in less than 24 hours. Appreciate you doing this, Mark. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow.
Yeah. Any ideas on where we should do this hit? Like 6:30? Should I be outside, hotel room? We're right by Ball Arena. We're trying to figure this out. Like,
there's an incredible steakhouse / peeler joint in the main drag in Denver, man. It's the best.
Right at Larimer Square. No, it's called Shotgun Willie's. It's down by the Creek Mall, Cherry Creek Mall. You go. I lived in a hotel right across the street from Shotgun Willie's.
That's where you have to be now, Mark.
You're going to be at Shotgun Willie's. That's the entertainment establishment. Oh, that's the one that
you'll fit in beautifully there, breaking down trades.
That would be great. Yeah, I didn't quite make it to Cahoots in Hartford, but I always like getting your guys' suggestions, so I appreciate that.
Cahoots in Hartford and Shotgun
Manager's office is downstairs.
Pop in and say hello next time you're in Hartford. They're waiting for you. All right, Mark. Good luck with that. Have fun.
Thanks, guys.
There's Mark Masters.
Didn't I text you guys in the group text? Isn't there a place in like London or something where it's like a stairway to go up to the second floor and there's a VIP, but it's outside? It's just a shady joint.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what
a barn in the back or something.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, some of these establishments.
Yeah, there's some wild scenes out there in the world, man. I can't wait to see where Masters sets up shop tomorrow. But
I know where he will. A hotel lobby.
Yeah, it'll more than likely be. Or at the rink. He might go to I don't know if they'd allow him in the rink at that time. I'm not sure they would. But, Mark will be there. Everyone's going to be a part of it. Trade Center starting tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. We're looking forward to it. We're all going to be there and ready to rock. And, Ryan Reeves, he's the only one on waivers. I guess more could go on waivers tomorrow, right? Like that'll be the final push if need be, I believe.
So is that one of those waivers where he's not like on a – would he be on a bird like if he doesn't get claimed to the Marlies?
Or is it one of those –
Yeah.
I think you have to. I don't think
to go to the minors.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I've just seen guys who have been on waivers, they cleared, and then all of a sudden they're still around.
I believe it's not a paper transaction. Like he actually has to, I believe, go. Like if you're not claimed, like you are
tough on the guy.
That's
tough for.
That's gonna sting, man. He's been in the league a long time. He's a respected guy.
Yeah.
He's a
big personality. He's a warrior. He's been around a long time, and when you get to that point, that's a difficult transaction, man.
Yeah, it hurts. But it's probably necessary. He's not going to play in the playoffs. He's not going to play. So, it just makes you wonder what else they're going to do. And Tampa's going to stay active. Florida's going to stay active. Look at Jersey. They picked up Brian Dumoulin today. They're not mailing it in. Like Jersey's like, all right, Jack Hughes, you're out. We're going to keep going here.
Top 50 Dougie. That's who they're replacing right there.
That's right.
Dumoulin.
Top 50 will return, I think, by the playoffs. I believe Dougie Hamilton will return.
And Parayko is gone, so.
Yeah, he had a knee scope. He's out for up to 6 weeks.
Basically
probably takes him out of the year. Yeah, exactly. So is Parayko, A, he's off the board, but B, what does that mean for St. Louis and what they're going to do? You're going to try to backdoor to the playoffs, or are you going to make trades?
I love being competitive, and I always refer, like when Peter Forsberg went down, Joe Sakic put the team on his back. They won the Stanley Cup. But I don't know, man. Like, if one of my guys went down, like Jack Hughes goes down, I might just throw my cell phone in the Hudson River and be like, not this year.
It's a tough one to react to.
It is,
it's
man.
It's a really tough one. Well, we'll see what Pierre LeBrun can tell us on that and more. He's coming up. Darren Pang coming up. And Dear Hazy B, a special Thursday version of Dear Hazy B at 6:30. Get your submissions in online. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we've sent Al's brother out into the city with a pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Here is your final clue of the week.
Hey, OverDrive fans, happy Thursday to you. It's time for your final clue to find out where is Al's brother. You're scoring yourself a pair of Leafs tickets for Saturday, March 15th. The Sens are in town. Here is your final clue. Hockey players like Auston Matthews, Nat Spooner, and even young Fraser Minton frequent this building quite regularly.
It's a Ford Performance Center.
I think it must be. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't know where else he could be. First caller through tomorrow with the correct location wins a pair of tickets. Again, Leafs, Ottawa, March 15th. Saturday night, big game. Find Al's brother. Brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Yeah, we'll see.
That was a weak clue. I got to be honest. That's a weak clue.
Yeah, I don't really get the previous clues that much.
Well, he's like Frankie Corrado works on his hands and that. Didn't he say that? Wasn't it yesterday?
Frankie works on his hands.
Yeah, he said something like that. I was like, what the hell is he talking about?
I know. Frankie was
he's
involved
on a cruise ship again. I think
it might be a mail-in. It might be a mail-in. Anyway. All right, we got Pierre LeBrun coming up. Pierre will join us. And what's the latest on Mikko Rantanen? What are the Bruins going to do? Could Marchand be acquired? If not him, Coyle, Carlo.
Carlo's the guy.
Brandon Carlo, that is a guy.
He's my guy.
Your guy? Okay, well. And where do the Maple Leafs and the other Canadian teams fall in line on this? Rapid fire with Pierre, less than 24 hours away from the trade deadline. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.